right, ladies, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to ask the mentor mamas to come on up here and get settled in their seats. And while that is happening, I just wanted to give you guys some scriptures to encourage you as we get started. Thanks, ladies. So the Lord put Isaiah 46, 8 through 11 in my devotions this morning. And I just wanted to share it with you as we kind of launch into summer after today. So verse 8 starts, "Remember this and stand firm. Recall it to mind, you transgressors. Remember the former things of old. For I am God, and there is no other. I am God, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning and from ancient times, things not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will accomplish all my purpose." And then the end of verse 11, "I have spoken, and I will bring it to pass. I have purposed, and I will do it." So I just want to remind you guys as you kind of look forward into your summer, and if you have lots of things planned, or if you plan nothing because you're tired of living in a plan and you just want to relax and enjoy things, just remember that anything that comes to pass is going to be in line with what God has purposed for you. So have some freedom in that. And so today we have our mentor moms. Is everybody up here? Not to single anybody out. Okay. All right. It doesn't matter. I'm going to stay here. So maybe I just, had all the things counted in my head differently. If you want to move. There is a microphone on each side. So you guys can pull them off. And Morgan has it set up. So make sure we don't turn it off as you pass it. And make sure that you hold it up to like your chin. Morgan said that's kind of the sweet spot to grab your voice so that these mamas in the back can hear you too, which means I need to do the same thing, huh? Okay, so we have quite a few questions that you ladies submitted. And so as you mamas look through these and as we've reviewed them over the weeks, if the Lord has given you insight into this particular question, just raise your hand and we'll pass the mic and we'll go from there. Sound good? All right, the first question is, how do you balance raising teens and toddlers? Here's a little context. I tend to either treat my teen too young and my littles like they're older. Okay, I feel like I could have submitted this question. Or I underparent the teen because I'm too busy with the little ones. So any insight into that? How do you balance raising teens and toddlers?
I am in this stage right now, so I wouldn't say that I'm doing it great, but I think something that has really helped my teenagers is... A little higher. Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
You're not yelling, I promise.
I feel like I'm yelling. Okay. It's just honesty with my high schoolers. I think they really appreciate it when I pull them into the adult circle and say something like, hey, I'm so sorry I've been treating you like a 5-year-old because I'm around 5-year-olds all day. And they kind of give me grace for my whatever I'm doing wrong. My older kids like to stay up late and talk, and I like to go to bed at 8:30. So sometimes I can rally and stay up to 10 or 11 to talk with my older kids, and I think that's really important for them. And then we try to do every Sunday after church, we try to go home and have one-on-one dates with our kids. So my husband will be with the oldest, then I'll be with the second oldest, and then the 3 younger kids will be together. And it's 1 hour, and it's just do something together for an hour, and then we rotate. So each of us adults will get to be with each of the kids a different week. And I think that has really helped to just bond that relationship. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm taking a long time and there's a lot of questions.
Does anybody else have anything on that one, or we can move on? Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Aaron. I feel like I should have brought a pen up and take my own notes. Number 2 says, how can I refresh or get a break as a mom? I have no family help and very little other help. I have no margin, and I'm feeling it, and so are my kids. Shoot, did I submit all these questions? Yeah, there's one by Sandy, too. Yep.
I'm thinking maybe you need to take your kids for as many outdoor activities and things that just give you a rest from the communication or up at your knees begging and pulling at your clothes, the things that may be overloading you as much as you can, since you don't seem to have much backup or relief. That's just one idea. A lot of parks, a lot of walks, a lot of scavenger hunts where you don't plant the things, but as you go for a walk, look for a green or a pink flower, look for a stick that has 3 little branches on it, things that get them busy away from you, and try to figure out how you can get relief for yourself, you know. So whatever their activity, I'm just suggesting you plan things away from you.
There are other mothers in this room that feel the exact same way. You need to find somebody and maybe like, you watch my kids, I'll watch your kids. Also, I think grocery shopping, go by yourself, have your husband watch the kids and take an extra 30 minutes and just go down the aisle. Also, remember, you're going to have a break when your kids grow up. This is a season that you just have to accept that you don't get a break. But as far as that, you just, don't be too hard on yourself. And it doesn't mean that you get to go have coffee by yourself every week. That's not realistic. But, maybe find a friend that, and say, hey, would you watch my kids for an hour? And I'll watch your kids for an hour, somebody you trust.
I think I really appreciated what Chastity shared last week about giving room for margin in your life. I think it's important to not overschedule your life too, because that is overwhelming. So maybe cut back on a few things. That's a good idea. And it's okay to tell your kids, this is in addition to all these great, I love everything they said, but also give your kids time in their rooms to play. Say, we're going to just have a playtime. 30 minutes, you guys are going to be in your rooms playing. Do not ask for mommy. Do not go potty. Like, this is you get 30 minutes. I did that. I had playtime. That was my chance to get in the shower, pray, make a phone call to a doctor back before email and texting. And it's okay to maybe set some disciplines and guidelines for your kids. It's really okay to do that. And if that gives you a chance to have 30 minutes to pick a book up and read, paint your nails, whatever, it's really okay to do that. And I did that. I actually moved it, like when my kids were toddlers, to an hour. I had an hour every morning. It was called playtime. And they would go into their rooms and play, and I'd give them a little snack, and they would just play their hearts off, and I would set a timer, and when that timer went off, it was like, okay, time to clean up, everybody. But it gave me 1 hour every morning to just spend time with the Lord, take a shower, do something like that. That was another thing. I felt refreshed by that.
I'll add one more thing. Don't feel like you have to be present every minute of your kids' days. So like she's saying, but you can, if they're old, and I don't know the ages of the kids, but if they can be in a sports activity or a team, something where they're going to a practice, if you have to stay, take a book, take your phone and scroll, whatever, take a nap in the car or take a nap on the sidelines, whatever. You don't have to have eyes. I know they're going to look and they're going to be like, is mom watching? You can fake it till you make it. Just put sunglasses on and just sit there and read your book and smile and nod. Find little moments where you just kind of take it back from all of the giving, and don't feel that you have to be 100% of your day focused on your kids. It's okay to take those breaks, so permission granted. Yes.
Thank you, ladies. Lots of wisdom there. Number 3, what is one of your greatest parenting fails and one of your greatest triumphs? And if you want to focus on one more than the other, that's okay.
Cussing over spilled milk.
I think the greatest triumph is that they're both following the Lord.
I agree with Cheryl. I'm blessed that my mother took me to Sunday school. My first remembrance of such a thing was being so little, and I remember I was holding with my left hand, I was holding her right hand as we went up these big concrete stairs to the nursery school in church. So there's very lasting impact. So I praise God for having that and doing the same with my children. And they're both Christians today by the grace of God. So that's the biggest thing you'll ever give your kids. Just give it to them and let God go to work.
I'm going to wrap myself out because it was.
You're good.
Is it
It's
okay?
on. It's on.
Our son was a really hard nut to crack. He would close himself in and he wouldn't talk, and he wouldn't. And when he was in high school, he just quit doing his work, and he wouldn't tell anybody why he was not doing his work. Well, we come to find out that, dragging, and I finally, distraught at night. I'm sitting in bed with my husband, and I looked at him and I said, "He's gonna end up homeless." This terrible thing. And so I had to be just deranged because my husband got up and went in his bedroom and he goes, "Come here." And he opened the back door and he threw him outside. And he goes, "This is what it's like to be homeless." And our son laughed at him. And in this desperation, my husband picked up the hose that was next to him and turned it on, and he turned it on him. And he said, "This is what it's like to be homeless in the rain." And, of course, cooler heads prevailed. We all calmed down, and we apologized. He apologized. Come to find out, he had done all of his work. It was in his backpack. Why he decided he wasn't going to turn it in, I have no idea. Right. So, and, we laugh at it now because I looked at him, afterwards, I said, "This is why there's therapy. It's because when you get older, you will have to go through therapy for this." And in their adoption, they had to go through therapy because it's required. And so he called me up and he goes, "Mom, guess what? I went through therapy." And me, of course, I'm like, "Did I cause it? Was it mine?" And he goes, "No." He goes, "It was just for court. It's not a big deal." You did fine, but apologies. If you do something wrong as a parent, we're going to do something wrong. Apologize. Say, I overshot. I messed up. I should have been here, and I was up here. And I think sometimes as parents, we forget that. It's okay. It's not a sign of weakness to go back and apologize to your children when you did something wrong or when you misspoke. It's more of strength and showing them and letting them exercise grace because they have to learn how to exercise it too.
And for me, one of my greatest fails, I think, is trying to be a perfectionist, especially when you have little ones. I had Jordan first, and then my son was like 19 months later, and I thought I had to have it all together. I thought I had to have the clean house. They had to be well taken care of. They had to be, you're just doing stuff for them, thinking that you need it all together. And it ended me in depression. And now, as a grandma, I just see those little things. It's okay to have the house dirty. No one's judging you because their house is probably dirty too. So just those little things, because when you become a grandparent, you really see that, because when my grandkids come over, my house can be a wreck, but I know I can get it cleaned up. And as you moms, it's okay. Just let them be kids.
For the fails, there's just too many, so we'll just move on from that. But the greatest triumphs, I'll try not to get emotional actually, but I would say being a mom who was trusted by her kids. My kids knew that I meant what I said, that I would be there, but they would also pay consequences. And I think the greatest triumph for me was seeing more than one of my children paying some consequences and then coming back and saying that they were sorry as an adult, and realizing that I would be there to forgive and to assist and help them continue to grow in a healthy biblical manner. And that was probably my greatest triumph, was those few calls that I've gotten as they've been adults, just saying, I'm in a pickle and I need some help, and I know that you're going to do that, but not expecting me to bail them out. And I think I'm proud of that for my kids, that they knew, and that just comes back to teach them, raise them in the way that the way of the Lord, and they will not stray from it. They might not walk a straight line, but they'll come back, because if God's got a hold of their heart, He doesn't let go.
I love what you guys have all shared, and I love what Cheryl said. Don't sweat the small stuff. You know, enjoy your kids when they're little. Your house will always be dirty. It's always going to be dirty. It will. If you came to my house right now, I have stuff all over the place. Chris is out of town. I'm like, oh, what time does he get home? I better get home and clean. But don't sweat the small stuff. Really relax. Just enjoy your kids. Enjoy them when they're little. Enjoy them when they're teenagers. And I have many fails. And here's how you walk through those. You just ask for God's mercy and His grace. And you walk in that. And, you know, even if the kids, now that they're all adults, and they'll say, Mom, remember that time? Yeah, thanks. Thanks, yeah. But, you know, the truth is, I'm like, yeah, I am just a sinful woman who is trying to raise kids who love Jesus. And I want just to walk in humility and just call on God's grace all the time, because He is there to pick up the pieces and fill in the gaps where maybe we have failed at something. And apologizing and not sweating the small stuff. I think walking in humility allows your kids to grow up and say and respect your all the hard work you tried as a parent, but they're merciful because they know that you did your best. So walking in that humility.
I just had something pop in my head that something that the Lord has convicted me of in recent seasons is, I think a lot of times we feel like failures if our kids see us fight with our husbands. And I think that it's a bigger failure if you don't let them see you make up. Our oldest is 21 and is married, and I've had multiple sweet conversations with my daughter-in-law, and I had to apologize to her, and I said, you know, I know that we modeled fighting for our kids, and I'm sorry if you ever experienced the lack of modeling and making up. And that just like, you know, your biggest failure you think could be your failure of, you know, failing your kids, sinning against them, your triumph can be wrapped up in that when you turn it into asking for forgiveness and showing them what that looks like, being humble. And so our three younger kids, well, our oldest is about to our next oldest is about to graduate. So our two youngest, I'm praying will be really good at knowing how to reconcile when there's a fight with their spouse. Because a lot of times, you know, you're like, oh, well, don't fight in front of the kids. Oh, well, let's not resolve it in front of the kids. Well, why not? You know, like where else are they going to learn how to do that? So, and to even be like, hey, well, we didn't do this right, so we're going to show you how we're trying to do it right now. Obviously, you know, use discretion in that, but, you know, that was something that I just recently learning. Anything else? Are we ready to move on? You good? Okay. The next one would be, what is one thing you have done with your spouse, like a tradition or something, that you'd like to pass along to younger moms?
Well, I think it goes back to what you were just saying too. Walking in humility with your spouse. I think that hopefully if I could pass on to younger moms, don't sweat the small stuff with your husband all the time either. Show grace to him. That's just something I would pass on to younger moms. And Chris and I have always had a lot of fun together. We've always enjoyed each other. And I hope I pass that on to my kids. But, you know, again, you always have those times where you don't, you know, you're not getting along, we're butting heads or something, and I want them to see the resolution on the other side of it too. So I think that was really good. You really have to show your kids how forgiveness and grace works out. And what better way to do that through marriage, right? So that's just on a more philosophical level as far as I'm really thankful. We've had a lot of fun together. And I think that that's fun. It's really important for your kids to see that you guys enjoy each other and that you go out on dates, that you have fun together. When we play games together, we're always doing stuff together. Even as, you know, our kids are going, you guys are going out again, you know? But I just want them to always just see that Chris is my best friend and we've always had fun together and he always came first. And even if we weren't agreeing on something, which we didn't, you know, there's oftentimes, even on our parenting styles, you know, we would butt heads like, I think I would have done it different. But we were always united. And I think that's important. So I don't know if there's any practical things, any practical traditions you guys might do, but I think it's important for you as a young mom that your kids see how much you delight in your husband and that you enjoy him, that you look forward to him coming home. When he calls, you're excited to hear from him, and that they see that you love your husband and that that you show grace to him, because we have to show grace to each other. Your kids are watching everything you're doing, right? So just in the day-to-day life of being gracious to each other, forgiving, being kind, and having fun, and laughing at each other. Flirting with each other, that drives my kids crazy. But we flirt with each other all the time. When you say, how do you make up? Well, do your kids see you kissing each other? You know, it's important. I think those are really important things as if an older mom could share with a younger mom. Be flirtatious with your husband, and even in front of your kids, because they even though they say gross, they do love it.
We did this for a very short season. We were not consistent, so it's not necessarily personal advice. But I do like the idea, and it's something that we do tell young couples, or couples with young kids, whatever, is every evening to set aside 15 minutes where you just talk face to face. Get the kids something to do, put a little movie on, give them a game, coloring books, put them in their high chairs, give them a snack, whatever, and just, how was your day? This, and how was your day? This. And, you know, it doesn't have to be heavy, deep conversation. It's just meant to kind of connect, and it's the visual time for your kids to see mom and dad are important to each other, and it's important that we have, you know, moments like this. And so it's a really great demonstration, and I highly recommend it. I remember doing it, but like I said, we weren't consistent. But it's a good idea.
And along with that, because we did the same thing, we took the same parenting classes, yeah. Back in the early 90s. Yes. But in addition to what Shannon just said is, it's okay for your kids to know they're not allowed to interrupt you. Yes. That you could have a one-on-one conversation with your husband for 15 minutes without them, mom. You know, I'm talking to dad right now. Well, unless it's an emergency, of course, but let's be honest. Is there ever an emergency, right? They have to go potty, someone hit them, their brother or sister, you know, poked them or whatever. It's never an emergency. But for them to see that their mom and dad are having a deep conversation is really okay. I'm giving you permission to say to your children, Dad and I are going to have some time to talk. You guys get back to me. When I come out, sometimes we just go in our room and talk. And the kids knew we were talking. They didn't have to come and interrupt us every 15 minutes.
Good, thank you. The next one is, what are some of your favorite relationship building activities to do as a family? The context of this particular one comes from a mama of boys ages 3 to 8.
My husband and my kids really like board games, so I try to play board games with them. I prefer to be outside, so I like to go play sports outside or hike or something. But I think board games and sports really help show your kids' character and your own character. I don't like losing, but it's good practice for me to lose with dignity in front of my kids. I also don't let them win all the time because I'm competitive, but also I think it's important that they lose, occasionally at least. So I would say board games and sports. You get face-to-face time, I think, with board games, but some people are better to interact with when you're side by side doing an activity and you're not face-to-face. So I think for a couple of my boys, we connect better with sports when we're doing something side by side that's not me trying to stare at them and look into their soul, because they don't like that.
I think sometimes what you have to do is you have to give them the gift of knowledge. And I say that because our kids loved to do and learn. And so we found things that they were interested in, and we would take them and do it. If there was a museum they wanted to go to, we would be at that museum. There were, just all different kinds of things. They were never bored because there was always something to go learn and something to go do. And it's funny because one of our vacations, we took the kids to Florida, and our son, we took him to the Kennedy Space Center, and our son was, probably about 8 or 9 years old. We come driving out, and we're going back to the hotel, and he goes, "It would be so cool to work here one day." And that's where he works. The very place that we took him to see the Kennedy Space Center, he drives by it every morning on his way to work. And so it's kind of one of those things is you never know what you're going to do, and it's so fun to let them tell you about what they're learning. Give them let them tell you what they're learning and what they want to do, and just be a part of their lives sometimes, not just necessarily make them a part of your life.
This is not an entire family activity, short one, father's gone to work. But when you're fixing the kids' breakfast, if you have found yourself, and I'm sure it's easy to find, it was easy to find when I was raising my kids, but I got a children's devotional, and it was part of breakfast. It didn't take any more time than the fact that the three of us were sitting down together. I would read them this children's devotional, we would talk about it. If it meant that it was summertime and I had a little garden going, we would go out and sit on the log and talk about the birds and the leaves and the things in the garden and what was happening, and relate it to God so that they had a devotion of their own. And it built a relationship, I think, with me. It certainly was valuable in that they were having their own devotional to the Lord time, and a great way for them to start the day. So it's not that you're taking your time separately, but they're having their own thinking time and prayer time with the Lord with you. So anyway, I would suggest that, because I think that was a valuable bonding early on with my kids.
And maybe, too, have them pray for one another, so that's not they're so self-centered, they're centered on their siblings.
Okay. Thanks, I appreciate that, Bonnie. Okay. The next one is, how do you navigate with your children when your husband is away from home at work at times, Monday through Friday, so they don't build resentment towards you, mom, or their dad without interfering with the relationship between father and son?
That's a good question. Let me think about it for a second. I wrote something down, but let me think about it for a second.
I'm going to jump out on this one. My husband, the whole time that my kids were really little, was not at home. He was gone at a minimum 3 days a week, usually 5 days a week. So I was home by with the kids all the time. And I sat and I wrestled with this and I wrestled with this. And I finally, our daughter stopped by to pick up our granddaughter yesterday and said, Kate, what did I do? Because I didn't remember. She goes, Mom, we just did life. You know, we did things, you know. The thing that we did that was really different is for a lot of people when their husbands aren't at home, is every night at a certain time, he called. And we all had a phone. It was before we could have cell phones. So everybody had a phone in their room. That was the magic daddy phone. And daddy would call, and every kid would get to talk to him for 10, 15 minutes, however long they needed, and we'd, you know, go around. And then at the end of that, we would all get on the phone and we would all pray together. And we'd talk about what were our concerns and things like that. But during the day, she said, Mom, we cooked a lot. And I started thinking, yeah, we did. We just did life during the day. You know, there were the things, I included them in what I was doing. If the laundry needed to be sorted, that's how they learned their colors. The reds go here and the yellows go here. You know, so if you ask my kids how they learn their colors, it's because they sorted laundry. You know, we would run relay races making beds in the morning. They'd have to go throw all their stuffed animals off the bed, and I would have to make the bed because they were too little to do it, but they had to go toss all my pillows on the floor. And you'd see this mad dash of us running back and forth all over the house of trying to get stuff done. Lunchtime rolled around, and I'm going to be really honest, I needed a break. And so we had one of each. We had a boy and a girl, and I finally gave in, and they had little tiny TVs in their house that, to show you how old they are, they had VHS tapes underneath, and they got to pick a VHS tape, and it was like they went to their room, and because I got tired of listening to the fights about I wanted to watch Hot Wheels one more time, and the other one wanted to watch My Little Pony. So I was like, you can watch Hot Wheels, you can watch My Little Pony. And I would wait to eat lunch until then. I would feed them and sit down at the table with them. And then, you know, you don't have to go to sleep, but you have to go to your room because Mommy needs a timeout. And then we just went on with the rest of the day. And I think sometimes it's hard because, you know, I thought about it and I thought, I could have resented the fact that I was in the season that I was in. But I didn't because it made me closer with my kids. It gave me a special bond with my kids that some moms didn't have because there was somebody that was interfering during the day. But both of them will say they probably learned more about their dad and things like that during that time than they did when he was home all the time.
That's really good. I don't have experience with my husband traveling for work or being gone like that, but I do have kids with grandbabies that live across the country, and just trying to navigate that at this season. And one of our favorite things is we'll play games on FaceTime. And so you can do that with your littles. Get a couple games. I don't know, Hi-Ho Cheerio comes to mind for some reason. Get one for your husband to put in a suitcase. Have one at the house. Sit down, take turns, you know, and then you can like move dad's things so that they can see it on their board, and then he can, you know, move around and just play games on FaceTime. There's an app called Marco Polo where you do videos, and then, you know, they can watch it repeatedly and they can answer. You can like have conversation back and forth on these video clips whenever time allows. So like if he has a lunch break and it's at nap time and he can't call, he can like do a video and, you know, hey, this is what I'm having for lunch, chat. And then the kids can do the same. They can have the phone there, you know, talk to dad while they're eating lunch. And there's all kinds of, with technology, there's so many ways to include. But I think our favorite thing to do with my across the country kids is games on FaceTime. And those, whatever, it would work in the same situation. Just be creative. Do you want to add anything?
Sure. I would say during the day, if you find yourself like grumbling about your husband being gone or whatever, just anytime there's grumbling, see if you can turn it into gratefulness. Like, I'm so thankful he's providing rather than I wish he was here more. And also try to set him up for like success when he comes home. So, if the kids like to wrestle with dad, maybe dad needs 20 minutes to just zone out for a minute before he wrestles with the kids. But, talk him up during the day. Like, hey, when dad gets home, what do you want to do? Hey, when dad gets home, do you want to make something special? And I think like my husband was deployed a couple times when my kids were little. And so just having something to look forward to every day, whether it was like, today we're going to bake cookies or today we're going to go to the park. And that's like just one thing to look forward to every day was super helpful. Because otherwise it was like Groundhog Day and you're like waking up and doing this again. Oh man. And it's tiring.
I come from a dysfunctional marriage, so my children were raised in that household. But one thing that I wanted early on, and I asked for, and I got it, and I would say expand upon it, is family council. And anybody can call for family council, and anybody who has a need that they feel involves the family, they can call for it. And before dad goes on a trip, if that's something as this question addresses, I would say have a family council. And not everything that is going to be established is, if you're trying to build a bond with your children without him there, needs to be discussed in that. It should be discussed between the two of you. The point being that if he establishes with you the things for the time that he's gone, everybody hears it. It's a backup to you while he's gone. But things that are special that you could do so that it makes you light up a little bit, in their eyes while he's gone. It's not that dad said that we each get to have our special meal, that mom's got to do that. No, wait until he's gone, and then unless you have 15 kids and you're going to do nothing but cook, I would say everybody gets the meal at one point while he's gone, that if it's a length of time, that you fix their special meal. That's something between you and them, and you are giving it to them. So it's not something that comes straight from him or in any way bypasses you. The other thing is that if there's something that your kids like to do, maybe if you kind of feel like you're on edge with having this happen too much, that he's gone, try to establish that they get to do their special thing while he's gone. If it isn't too dangerous or takes too much backup, but something that makes you light up in their eyes if you're having trouble with that, so that you save that. That can be a discussion between the two of you before he ever leaves, and then you let the kids know that that's something you're giving them, when in fact you both gave it to them.
Next question. Bonnie's giving me the look. Okay. I'm going to tie the next couple of them together because I think they're kind of related. The first part says, how do you deal with wanting more kids but not having the practical financial means? Also, do you think it's biblical to get a vasectomy or your tubes tied as a Christian, or just live naturally and God's will for your family size will prevail?
Okay, the first question, wanting more kids. The truth is, do you trust God, that God will provide? You have a roof over your head. You have a bed to sleep in. And honestly, anything that you really want, you will find the means to afford it. The government gives you $2,000 every year as a credit, and your kids aren't eating $2,000 worth of food. There's a bunch of women in here that would be happy to give you hand-me-down clothes. You don't dress your kids in Ralph Lauren because they won't appreciate it anyways. And until they're teenagers, and then you might, but you won't worry about it then. The truth is, there's always somebody that has a stroller that they're getting rid of, or a crib. So I have never met a mother that has said, "I regret having so many kids," but I have met a lot of mothers that have said, "I wish I had more kids." And then the next one, is it biblical to get a vasectomy or tubes tied as a Christian? And this could be very controversial, but the truth is, I shouldn't say the truth is, but according to the Bible, there is nothing in the Bible that talks about that, but we have religious freedom to make that choice. You need to listen to your conscience, and this is a conversation between you and the Lord. If your conscience is saying it's wrong, do not do it, because you're sinning. But if you're okay with it, then it's fine. But don't judge others that have maybe a different view, because then you are sinning, because you're judging because they don't have the same view as you, and their conscience might not be telling them what your conscience is telling you. So just be very careful with that, and have more kids, because I regret not having more kids.
I agree with everything she's saying. So do not have children because you don't think you can afford it. That is, to me, I feel like we put those expectations on ourselves, that we have to have all these perfect material possessions, but that's not true. And Bonnie's right. You're never going to regret not having more children. God always provides. He always provides. And it may not be the most expensive thing on the market, but it could be. It could be that the Lord just blesses you with that by a gift or something. I prayed for so many things when my kids were little. We've always been in ministry from the very beginning, and we decided that money was never going to be an option or an issue for us not having children. God always provided. If we needed something, I would just be praying for it. And what was really amazing about that is that if the kids said that they wanted something and I knew it wasn't in our budget, I go, well, let's pray about it. Let's pray if the Lord will provide for that. And he always did. And then I could share them. Look what God did. Look what he did. He provided. And so it was a great opportunity to show them how amazing God is and how he cares about even just the little things in our lives. But don't ever, to me, if you feel like the Lord wants you to have more kids and you're like, I don't know how have more kids, and he will provide. And when it comes to the other issues, so I would have probably had a lot more kids, but physically I couldn't. So that was kind of the Lord just kind of stopping that season of my life. But don't not have kids if you are able and he's laid that on your heart. Don't let financial reasons be the issue. If it's a physical issue, that's a whole different situation. But again, listen to what the Lord is saying to you. Seek him, pray about it, and let him help you make those decisions. Not the world.
We had 5 kids, and there was seasons we had $0. There was just no money. I was making my own baby food. I used to take paper towel rolls and cut them in half and soak them in water with baby shampoo to make my own wipes. I mean, we had $0, and the kids kept showing up, and so and we've lived in 2 houses since we started having kids. Our first one was a 3-bedroom, and we had 5 kids in there, divided between the 2 rooms. And our current house had 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, and so we converted a garage, and we used weird things to create a bedroom-like situation in the dining room, and you know, it had 2.5 acres. We bought it for the dirt, but we made it work, and my kids survived, and they've learned how to also survive as adults with little. And so honestly, being on a tight budget is going to teach your kids way more than having money out your ears and only having 1 or 2 kids. So go for the kids. If you and your husband are in agreement and you feel like it's what the Lord is telling your family to do, money should be 0 impact, because like they've all said, God's going to provide for them.
I think this is one area where the rubber hits the road. We should keep our mind on the positive, but I want to share kind of a negative issue without names and such. But within my family, another baby was wanted. The family had a number of children, but because God has set a chain of command, and he's at the very top, he has put your husband, the father of the children, the family, he has put him as the umbrella over you. You are, in essence, an equal partner in different ways. But when I think a decision has to be made, and it's kind of at a decision point that can't be reached, I think personally I just see that God has put that husband to give the final word. And it may mean that you want a baby and he doesn't. Maybe you've got enough as far as he's concerned, and he may be the main breadwinner. But in this particular situation, this woman wanted more children, and they had a few to be clothed and fed and whatever, and she was not a working mom. So a lot fell on the husband. And she went ahead and decided that rather than birth control on her part, she would just make a mistake. So they ended up with another baby. She was thrilled. And he was a good guy, and he loved that child and saw it as God's blessing, and everything worked out. She nicknamed that baby Boo Boo. And I don't know that anybody else knew, hopefully not that baby as he grew, that his nickname was Boo Boo. I mean, to this day, once in a while, I've heard the term boo. And I remember what she told me. She says, my husband didn't know it, but I wanted that baby. And I felt like it was unfair to her husband. It was unfair to the child. And I don't come from a holy mountain where my decisions have always been the wisest. But I thought in that particular case, a baby should be wanted. And if God has led your husband to put you in the place where you're not getting what you want with another child, pay attention to God. Pray about it. See what's to be. But I didn't feel good about that, because I want babies to be wanted and to be loved and to be cherished and to know how special they are. So I just throw that into consideration.
And I would agree with that, because I know I've talked to a few of you out there before about you wanting a baby and your husband not wanting. And here's what I've always told you, and I stand by it. Ask the Lord. Pray about it. Fast and pray. If that is something that is a huge desire on your heart, pray, Lord. I prayed after Hannah. I could not have any more children physically. So I knew adoption was going to be my route to go. And Chris had said, I know we're not going to have any more, but someday maybe we'll adopt. Well, when that time came, Hannah was 2. Remember that conversation that we had? Yeah, but, he just started at the church. My plate is full. I just don't think so. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm not happy with that. I am not happy with that conversation. But I also felt like I needed to trust the Lord. I knew that his timing, his provision, it would be from him. So instead of nagging, instead of orchestrating things and to work out for my benefit, I just started getting on my knees and praying. And I prayed for 2 years. So it took a long time. I wanted answers right away. There were moments of despair. Lord, I felt like you laid this on my heart, but I prayed and prayed and prayed. And finally, and you guys know this story, I finally went to him and said, okay, I just want you to know I've prayed, and I asked the Lord, if it's your will, he's going to put this on your heart. And if it's not his will for us to adopt, then he'll change my heart. I trust him in that. And then it was like 2 weeks later that I just saw I think it was that moment, you know how, I know you guys have all experienced that, where you just surrender. You just kind of surrender whatever it is that you're doing. And it's just like the Lord was saying, yeah, I've been waiting for you to do that. And he just opened the floodgates. And I just spent the last week at my son's home helping take care of his little baby. And the Lord is so good, and he was wanted and loved and cherished, and we call him the favorite, and you know, he's spoiled, and you know, but I'm just saying we prayed, and I didn't go behind Chris's back. Not that, you know, I mean, with adoption you can't really do that, but you know, I didn't like manipulate the situation. I just really sought the Lord.
I just want to say too, just to add to what I said earlier. No, I've lost my train of thought.
I'll just add to what Kristen said. I remember that season in Kristen's life, and they went through it again with homeschooling too. And I remember watching her wife through that. And I just want to testify from watching that situation. Her grief and her heart was real. It was painful and very hard for her. And she still walked so gracefully with faith. And so I just think it's a true testament to the Lord, where he calmed her heart while she waited and then blessed her with the answer she wanted. Had that not have happened, she would have continued just trusting the Lord for her family size. And so I just want to give a testament that it wasn't, when she talks sometimes it sounds so smooth and easy, but it was a hard, difficult time, but she did it well.
It came back. Just like Cheryl mentioned, which I think she and I need to talk, but she said she went through a depression. I did too in my marriage. And when I wanted a third child and my husband just blankly said no, and we didn't discuss well together, years later, I accepted that because I felt like, okay, God, I think I've heard from you, but I didn't know why. And years later, I went through a depression as well in that marriage. And I've often thought, not that God's going to work the same way in everything by a long shot. Every time we put him in a box, he won't go. But when I went through that depression and later thinking about what that youngest child would have experienced at younger ages, and I went through the depression for 6 years. It was a long time. So that impacted my children very much in their lives, and even I see it in them today. But I'm just saying, by accepting that no, even though it was something I wanted, and by trusting God, I felt, like you said, it changed my heart. I accepted it, but at the same time, I look back now, and not that he's going to work the same, but I can see in my life how that was far more of a blessing not to have had that third child. So God always stays so mysterious, doesn't he? But that's that we walk in faith and not by sight.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the adoption thing, because I know there's a lot of people that want more children and they physically can't have them. And that was the position that we were in. And I can remember sitting around, my sister-in-law's adopted. She's Korean. One of these things doesn't look like the other. She lives in a family with 3 very strapping white young men. And we were sitting around the table trying to explain to our kids when they were probably in about 3rd and 1st grade that we were considering adoption, and you know, and that you could tell they didn't understand the concept of adoption. And I just kind of looked at him and I said, well, like Aunt Elizabeth is adopted. And both of them got this, and Aunt Elizabeth is adopted? And it's like, yeah, she's adopted. Didn't you ever notice that she kind of doesn't look like anybody else? We never, God closed that door on us each time that we talked about it. But our son and daughter-in-law could not have children. And so they are going through the adoption process right now. And it's one of those things that it's like to watch them as they have grown through this, especially my son, who didn't like children at all, to see him grow and to see him change and mature as a human being, to actually let someone else physically into that gooey center of him is just amazing. And so, don't ever think that you're done. Just think maybe that's not the way. Maybe there's another path out there, and you need to be praying, and just maybe that's not the traditional way. Maybe God's gonna take you down a different path, and be open to that as well.
Thanks, ladies. All right, we have about 5 minutes left. And I'm going to group a couple of the questions together on your paper, ladies. This is going to be number 9 and 12 put together because they both are issues, questions about discipline. It says, how do I discipline in a manner that reaches the heart and doesn't provoke my children to anger? I feel like there's an entire section of bookstores that answers that question, and entire years of insight teaching that has been that. But so the context of that question is ages 2, 3, and 7. And then the other question says, I can't spank my child or children because it brings back childhood memories of being hit. How can I administer spanking without thinking it's abuse? What does the Bible say about discipline, and why should we as parents discipline our children? What if parents don't discipline, and what does the Bible say then? All right, moms, you got 5 minutes.
I think there's a difference between discipline and punishment. And I think whoever wrote this, I think their childhood memories was punishment. When you discipline, it needs to be done in love. The Bible says that. And oftentimes when you go to discipline your kid, you're hot and mad and you're ticked off. And what you need to do is wait. If that means that you have to just tell the kid you need to go sit in the corner for 15 minutes and you need to go sit in the corner for 15 minutes before you discipline them, that's what you need to do. Because when you do it out of anger and you're mad at them, then it's punishment. And then also, you need to, because it needs to be done in love, I don't think spanking is bad. Some may think it is, but for our family, we did it. Not a lot, but after you are done disciplining, it is so important that you talk to that child. And then also, tell them that you love them. And like my daughter and I were discussing this yesterday, you have to hug them. And it changes things. It is not supposed to be punishment. Anybody else?
We get pretty creative with punishment. Discipline, thank you. Yes, and punishment, I don't know. Discipline, yes, thank you. We get pretty creative. When our kids were little, sometimes they would get a little flick on the cheek if they did something that you're like, they need something right now to stop whatever they're doing. We have also just tried different tactics until we found something that worked. Like one of our kids, one of his discipline things is if he is caught not wearing his retainer and it should be in, he owes me a mile. He has to go run a mile. Some of our kids have done push-ups. Some of them have had to stand on timeout with their nose against the wall because if it was any other way, they wouldn't do it. So just try everything.
I think one of the things
Discipline.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. Okay. I think one of the things that we have to realize is that when we discipline our children, it's because we love them. Our lives with Christ, we're constantly being disciplined. He's constantly pushing us back, even as adults, to where, the Holy Spirit is constantly in our head of, oh, I messed things up. And part of it is that we have to learn to have a gentle heart with Him, and we have to teach that to our children as well. And honestly, past that, if you ever want to know why to discipline your children, is talk to a kindergarten teacher.
Discipline is biblical. That was a question in here. It is biblical. If you, and consistency is important also. Don't go, don't be the threatening, repeating parent. If I'm going to count to 3, your word should be your word. This is what I expect. And if you don't follow through with this, there will be consequences. And creativity is good. I did discipline my children through spanking, but I also did timeouts, taking privileges away, things such as that. You have to read the room, basically, and see what works best for your child. I remember Brianna telling me early on, saying, I'd rather get a spanking because then it's over with. But if you put me in timeout, then I'm just devastated. I'm like, oh, thanks for that information. That's good to know. But that was just different. Every child was different. So, but whatever it is you choose to do, be consistent. That is the biggest thing. And the Lord, like you were just saying, we love our children, and the Lord loves us, and He disciplines us, and it is biblical.
Thanks, ladies. So much wisdom up here. Thank you for all that you've poured into around the tables all year, and just the relationships that you're building. And Jamila has entered the room, which means we get to worship. So will you guys thank our mentor moms with me?